It's time for Expert Alert, your chance to ask questions and get answers from experts.
Well, a very good morning, and thank you for joining us on all of our WLOX streaming platforms for this Thursday's Expert Alert. We're here every Thursday morning talking to the experts in some very specific fields. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions. So if you're joining us on Facebook, on the WLOX Facebook page right now, we are live. And if you want to ask questions of our expert, just pop those questions down there in our chat. And I will see them in real time. If I don't see them, the producers will tell me that they're there, and we can ask these questions and answer them in real time. We will see who you are, so just remember that. It's here. We'll keep our eyes on that. It looks like we have about 17 people watching now. Again, fire off any questions that you have. Today, we are talking to Jody Entrekin from Entrekin Insurance. Thanks for being here this morning.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So let's dive in, right? So what is insurance? What is it really there for?
Insurance, in layman's terms, is just an indemnity plan. So it's a transfer of risk. That's what it is in simple terms. So if you think about your insurance policy, doesn't matter what it is, if it's your homeowner's policy or your auto insurance policy, whatever it may be, you pay money, and once you pay someone money, at that point in time, the risk is transferred. So what do I mean by an indemnity plan? Think about homeowners, because that's a hot topic right now. We're still in hurricane season. Just had a couple tornadoes come through our area, and Hurricane Melissa, which was devastating, is fresh on everybody's mind, right? That's what it's designed for sudden events. It is absolutely 1,000,000%. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to me, please listen. It is not a maintenance plan. It doesn't get you a new roof just because it's 30 years old. A certain event must have happened. What I mean by an event is a peril. A peril is what caused the damage. Look at your policy or ask your insurance agent to explain the perils and coverages that you have. So if you have tornado come through, do you have coverage for that? If you don't have wind, which a lot of people are purchasing policies without wind right now, if the friendly neighborhood tornado comes through, guess what?
It's wind.
That is correct. Therefore, you have nothing. So to save $1,000, is it worth the investment that you have in a $300, $400, $500, or whatever $100,000 home you may have? So it's just like gambling at a casino. It's a risk factor. So insurance, that's all it is. It's a transfer of risk from you to another company.
It looks like we have a question here right now. Perfect. It says, why can't insurance companies cover all policy? If you write a policy, you should have to cover everything, including wind.
Well, that depends on you. So it's just like if you go out and you buy a new truck. Do you want a truck with all the bells and whistles?
Right.
You can get that. It just costs more money.
Sure.
And that's what people don't want to pay for. They want all the nice things, they don't want to pay for it.
Right.
Right? So when it comes to insurance, let's talk about the dirty word. Rates have increased. Why? Claims, 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 and claims again. We stop filing claims, rates will go down, right? That's why they're increasing. So if you want all the things, you have to pay for it. People will go out and they'll pay hundreds of dollars for a dinner because that's what they choose and want to do, because it tastes good and they're a foodie and they're enjoying themselves. But you let their insurance rate goes up $40, you ought to hear the phone calls that I have to field. It's crazy.
I mean, it's you're right. It is kind of a gambling situation here based on what you decide to go with. You mentioned homeowners insurance policies, and we're getting kind of on that tail end of hurricane season.
Yes, sir.
But that's not to say that again a pop-up tornado doesn't happen. They're unlikely in this area, but as you can see, they're not usually massive, but they're enough to cause a little. All it takes is one to just completely ruin the day. So what kind of homeowners policies are out there?
There's a bunch of them. We used to have a whole lot more. Now they're condensed. The most common homeowner's policy to your average homeowner is going to be what's called a HO3. And they have HO5s, HO6s, HO4s, all kinds of them. But each policy type is catered to your needs. And then for each policy, you can have endorsements to add certain things. Now, if you purchase property and you rent it out, as an example, Typically, those are called dwelling policies. And they also have different levels for dwelling policies. You can get DP1s, DP, dwelling policy, DP2, DP3, then they have basic, broad, and special, which your insurance agent could take the time and explain all that to you. And it's just like buying a truck at the dealership. If you want the bells and whistles, it's a different package level. Therefore, it costs more money. So the real question that you have to ask yourself is, what coverage do you really want, Chet? What coverage? Now, at the same token, I understand. We have to get what we can afford to pay for. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves the hard question. Is this a smart decision? Is this a need? Is it a necessity? Or do I just want to be able to do that? Well, unfortunately, what happens when someone has to call and file a claim? 9 times out of 10, that's when the regret kicks in. And they say, I wish I would have. So as your agent, it's my job to educate you. That's what I'm here for right now. I want to educate you. Once I educate you, it's up to you to make an informed decision.
Well,
That's what it comes down to.
When I bought my homeowner's policy, I was looking through the terms, and there was the potential for me to buy down the deductible rate.
Yes, sir.
From I think it was defaulting at 3%. I think was the number. I could buy it down to 1%, and I mean, again, that's a difference of thousands of dollars when
Yes,
I have
sir.
to file a claim. And so, but the difference in buying it from, and I live in tradition, so it's,
Yes, sir.
my policy is not as expensive as if I were to live here south of the bay, because I'm like 175 feet above sea level. I am surrounded by pine trees, so there's wind that could cause major problems. But for me, it was just a few $100s that I just made sure that I budgeted for, because if I had to file a claim, knowing heaven help me that if I ever have to, nobody wants to have to file a claim, but if I had to, I would rather have a deductible of $4,000 than $12,000.
Absolutely.
Because I want to be able to use all of that money to replace. I don't want to come out of pocket for anything.
So when I teach my insurance class and I'm discussing deductibles, what I tell people is your deductible is how much money you want to pay if you have to file a claim. Well, the truth of the matter is I don't want to pay anything if I have to file a claim.
Right.
That's why I have insurance, right? However, someone has to pay. If there's no deductible, everyone will file a claim for everything under the sun. There has to be something there. There's a cost share, right? That's what it is. It's a cost share. So if you want a lower deductible, you have to pay for it. So when it comes to like tornadoes as an example, if you don't want a huge deductible all the time, there's other options. But when I tell people, hey, I can offer you this and it costs more money, that's when we get a lot of pushback, especially right now. So tornadoes, as an example, there are policies out there that cost $88. It's like a supplemental. That will help offset that large wind hail deductible.
We have another question here. It says, first of all, it says, that's a great looking cup. So there you go.
Awesome.
They've noticed the cups. Question, I heard that some companies are offering rate protection programs. Is that something you can speak to?
Absolutely. So they do have, some companies out there. It's called Premium Lock. What you're doing is you come out there and not every policy will qualify for it. Certain policies, certain carriers. So everything has its niche. So you purchase this Premium Lock, and what happens is they guarantee that your policy will not increase over X amount of dollars. Let's just say, for example, your policy is $2,000. They're going to come back and say, okay, if your policy increases for the next 3 years over $2,400, whatever that difference is above $2,400, we will pay you directly. So if your policy increases to $3,000, they owe you $600. If the next year it increases to whatever the difference is, they owe you.
Feels like an insurance policy on an insurance policy.
That's exactly what it is.
They found a way to monetize that. Question here, what is the difference between replacement cost and actual cash value?
Man, what a great question. Thank you for asking that. Replacement cost is what it will cost to replace whatever the item may be, okay, of like kind, not to upgrade it. So since we were discussing homeowners insurance, if you have Formica countertops, they're not going to pay for the difference for you to get granite.
Sure.
It's not what it is. If you have 3-tab shingles on your roof, they're not going to pay for you to get a metal roof, or they're not going to pay for you to get architectural shingles. Everyone thinks it does. It does not. It's to replace it for what it is. Has nothing to do with whatever your loan amount value is, what you owe on whatever it may be, or what the appraised value is. Actual cash value is real simple. It's, by definition, it's replacement cost minus depreciation. So as it ages, it depreciates. Your vehicle, you purchase a brand spanking new car that's 5 minutes old. You drive off the lot, what happens?
It depreciates.
Depreciates. Actual cash value. That's it in a nutshell.
So what if, so I guess a similar question, what happens if I don't have enough coverage? What happens if you have 3-tab and you want to get architectural? You just have to pay the difference.
That is correct. So what happens if you don't have enough coverage? In Mississippi, we have a law, it's called the co-insurance penalty, okay? Here's what that states. Your property must, not may, must be insured for at least 80% of the current replacement costs at the time of loss. Okay, at the time of loss. Not 2 weeks later when prices have increased because a storm comes, right? If it is not, even though you have a replacement cost policy, it reverts to an actual cash value policy. So then you're going to be hit with that depreciation. So your average structure will depreciate 1% per year. So if you have a home that's 50 years old, you're going to get the knees cut out from under you. And people don't understand that when they call and say, I only owe X amount of dollars. Why can't I insure it for that? Well, you absolutely can, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm here to tell you. You can. You just have to understand your policy. If you want a replacement cost policy, it's not going to work. Your lender is going to require you to have a replacement cost policy. Your lender is going to say, as long as it covers the amount of the loan. Well, I'm not a doctor. I'm an insurance guy. If my doctor says, Jody, we need to do this, I'm not going to tell him how to perform the surgery because I don't know how to do it. It's his job. It's my job to educate you once again. So I don't want to give you something that's not going to work for you on the back end.
Sure. I have another question here. So is it normal for premiums to go from $3,600 a year to $9,800 a year with no changes to property over the last year?
Is it normal? No. It's also not normal for everybody and their brother to file claims.
Right.
So people are looking at their insurance right now as a maintenance plan. So I'm going to be very, very quick on a story. I had a phone call that I fielded. Someone called and asked for my advice. Do they need to get a new roof? It's up to you if you want to get a new roof. Should I file a claim? That's up to you. I explained to them what their deductible would be. What I was unaware of, they had a contractor there. The contractor, stated to him, it's going to cost them roughly 10 grand if he pays him to replace that roof. But if you file it with your insurance company, it's going to be over 20 grand. Do the math. Do it. Everybody says, I'll get a new roof with the next storm that comes. That goes back to what I stated earlier. Your insurance is an indemnity plan. It's not a maintenance plan. Insurance companies have no choice. It's a business. What we're facing here in Mississippi are carriers who do not want to be here. Why? Claims. I said it 6 times earlier. Claims. That's the dirty word. I'm here to portray the truth. I'm here to educate folks. So please listen to me. If we can stop filing so many claims, we will see a decrease in premiums. We're already starting to see it now. Claims have slowed down because insurance companies have forced our hand to increase the deductible to make it feasibly possible for us to pay the premium. Now we got that cost share. Someone says, I can't afford to pay 15 grand for my roof. I'm not going to file a claim. Now that insurance company can afford to make a little money. Everyone thinks all this profit is there. It's not. It's not.
Should we be cutting down the trees near our home if possible to help, stay away from or mitigate any of those damages?
Absolutely. So I have children. When I was raising my kids, I would tell them, hey, don't go near that fire. It's going to burn you. I'm mitigating something that bad happened to them,
sure.
Right? Insurance companies want to pay your claim. They don't want to deny you, because if they deny you, you leave them. That's not what they want. They're designed to indemnify you, make you whole as you were before. They want to pay you. Well, fine. Everyone here loves trees. I love trees. I got some beautiful ones around my house. I didn't want to cut them, but I did. I cut them because it's more important for me, for my family to be safe and have a home to go to, than to sit there and look at that tree.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I love them as well. But at the end of the day, like I don't want to have to look at a hole in my roof because I wanted a pretty tree. That's just how I see it.
Yes, sir.
We might not all be that way. But listen, if you have questions, you see that number 228-460-0574. Entrekinins.com. If you have questions, if you're buying a home, if you want to just readjust, or maybe you want to talk about what your policy looks like, maybe what it should look like, you want to talk to Jody, maybe your insurance is with somebody else, and you want a second opinion, as it were, and you want to find out if you have everything you need to keep your family safe, give them a call. You see that information there. They're on Mobile Avenue in Gulfport. Jody, thanks for being here with us. We'll be back here the last Thursday of the month, every month, with Jody Entrekin Insurance, and we'll tackle another subject next week. Doesn't look like we had any additional questions. Do we have any other questions?
No, I'd like to make one final comment if I could.
Hold on, there is one other question. Are there low-cost items I can do to lower my premium that the insurance company would consider? And if we haven't seen a catastrophic storm for the past several hurricanes, for some past several years, are claims increasing?
Claims?
That's a lot. We only have a few minutes left.
Claims are still increasing for a little bit of everything. Think about it like this. Maintain your property just like you do your vehicle. If we do proper maintenance on our property or our vehicles, that will naturally decrease premiums. Those are updates that we can show to the carriers. You are rated for your risk. If it looks bad, you're going to have a higher premium. Final thing I want to say is this. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're out shopping for insurance, please pay attention. Search for an insurance agent who will advocate for you. We have a financial, fiscal responsibility to do what is within the best interest for all parties involved. It's not just my agency or myself, that's my insureds as well as my carriers. Please shop for an agent who advocates for you and educates you. If you are shopping strictly for price, good luck.
There you have it. We will see you right back here next Thursday morning for Expert Alert. Thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for Expert Alert. We'll feature more experts at the same time next Thursday.